Okay, so chapter 18, the endocrine system, control and regulation. So the endocrine system is the system in our body that's going to use the chemical messengers to send an information. And this is basically, we have two systems that control our entire body. The nervous system is a system that control fast or make fast decisions. This is the immediate control, is the nervous system. The endocrine system, on the other hand, is the slow going control. So both of them work together to control our body, but the immediate control, you take an action in a second. You touch something and you move away right in less than a second. This is the nervous system. So the nervous system is immediate, the endocrine system is more slow and long term. So short-term nervous system, long-term is endocrine, which is slow. And this is basically controlling the things that need time, like growth, development, and reproduction. What are the hormones? The hormones are chemicals that will stimulate the senses of enzymes or proteins. So the hormones are there. When you produce the hormones from the endocrine system, it will go to the cells, ask them to make enzymes and proteins, structured proteins. It can change the synthesis, it can control the membrane, and so on. So endocrine system is long-term. Nervous system is handling crisis, or this is an immediate control. If you wanted to take an action immediately. Generally speaking, if two cells are trying to communicate with each other, there are different ways. Your cells within your body communicate with each other. There are different ways. There is a direct communication if the two cells are in contact with each other. This is the easy one. It's a direct communication. There is a gap here, gap junction, and you can communicate because they are right by each other. The other one is paracrine communication. And the paracrine communication is through extracellular fluid, which is, this is a cell, and here's another cell, and there is a fluid in between separating, so it cannot be a direct communication or gap junction. So this is the second way. The third way, this is what we're actually talking about, which is the endocrine. So the cells of the endocrine system, and we have many organs that we will talk about, but the cells of the endocrine system will make hormone, and the hormone is going to go to the extracellular fluid, to the blood. So this is the most important one that we need to know. There's another one that's synaptic communication between the end of the nerves. We went through that in 233, but this is our focus here. Hormones go to the extracellular fluid, go to the blood, and move all the way to another organ or another tissue that will, in which it will exert its action. So all endocrine cells in our body together, this is called the endocrine system. And when I say endocrine system, I don't only mean the endocrine organs, like the pancreas, okay, or the adrenal gland. These are called the endocrine organs. But there are actually some tissues in organs that's not supposed to be endocrine, but it does a little bit of endocrine function. Like what? Do you know an organ in your body this is not the job for the organ, this is not their job to do endocrine, they do something else completely, but just have some tissues that produce some hormones. Do you have examples for that? The liver, no, the liver does not produce hormone. How about the heart, for example? The heart have nothing to do with the endocrine system, right? The heart just pump the blood, right? Receive blood, pump the blood. That's it. So it's dealing with the blood. But there is a little piece within the heart that actually produce hormones. Okay? We will talk about this, the atrial natriuretic factor and other things. Kidney. The kidney is not part of the endocrine system. The kidney is there to filter the blood and get rid of anything that's bad and keep everything that's good, right? It's a filter. Plus, there is a small piece within just a little bit of tissues within the kidney that is producing hormones, like erythropoietin, for example. This is a hormone that goes to the bone marrow, stimulate the bone marrow to make cells, red blood cells. But is that the function of the kidney? No, it's not. It's an additional function. So it can be a whole organ, which is called the endocrine organ, or it can be just a tissue within another organ that can do the job, and all of this together is called the endocrine system. The difference between endocrine cells, which is our focus, and the exocrine cells. The endocrine cells, these are the cells that are arranged within a gland. Like here is one cell, here is another cell, here is another cell, and another cell. They come together to make a gland. The secretions leave the gland, and it will go through, go to the extracellular fluid and then to the blood, while the exocrine cells will secrete the product into epithelial surface. It doesn't go to the extracellular space. It goes on top of the cells, epithelial cells. But our focus is the endocrine cells. Endocrine system, we have many of them. This is just an introduction. So generally speaking, we have something like the pancreas, which is endocrine, the gonads, endocrine, digestive system, it's there actually for digestion and absorption, plus some hormones. Adipose tissue, this is fat. Yes, it does have some hormones, like leptin and resistin. The kidney, filtering the blood, yes, but it does produce some erythropoietin and calcitriol. Calcitriol, we will talk about this. Heart, the heart is responsible for pumping the blood, plus some hormones, A and B and B and P. Parathyroid gland, this is an actual endocrine, parathyroid glands. Pineal gland, do you remember the pineal gland from 233? This tiny gland in the sagittal section of the brain. This secretes melatonin. Melatonin is kind of vague. It's a hormone. They say it makes you feel younger and gives some more power and health to your tissues, but they're still discussing this. Hypothalamus, this is the top, the head, the big boss of the whole endocrine system. Pituitary gland is number 2, so hypothalamus is the top, giving the order to the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland will give orders to everything else. Thyroid gland, just like the parathyroid. Thymus, the thymus is more important before puberty for activation of T lymphocytes, but after puberty, it's going to shrink. But anyway, the most important thing to know here is what kind of hormone? Thymosin. This is the hormone that's produced here. Adrenal gland, the gland itself have a cover outside and the core inside, just like watermelon. The watermelon have a cover outside that's green, and the inside is usually red, unless it is bad or something, right? So it's usually green from outside, the cover, and the core inside is red. So the cover outside, which is the green, is similar to the adrenal cortex, and cortex means cover. The inside, the red of the watermelon, is just like the adrenal glands. And we will have details to talk about. The hormones in general, if you're talking about from the chemical point of view, it can be coming from amino acids. The amino acid is the building unit of what? Proteins. Okay? So it's mainly tyrosine and tryptophan, specifically. Can be something else, but specifically, those are the most important. Tyrosine and tryptophan, these are the amino acids that used to build the amino acid hormones. The peptide hormones, so the first part is amino acid. The second can be a peptide hormones, and peptide means, what peptide means?
It's the bond with the amino acids.
What is it?
It's the chain bond with the amino acids.
Yes, chain of amino acids that are held together by a peptide bond, and this is where the name came from, peptide. Why did you call it peptide? Because this is blocks of amino acids held together by a peptide bond. So this is not a protein. What's the difference between peptide and protein? Protein is a large polypeptide. Okay, so you can have like a brick in the wall. This is like an amino acid. Okay, you can have like one wall. This is like The peptide, you can have all these walls. This is all together is like the protein. So one is amino acid grouped together would be a polypeptide. If you have a lot of peptide and you bend it and you put it in configuration, that will be protein. Others are lipid derivatives, like glucosides and steroid hormones. We will talk about this. So the chemical nature is amino acid, peptide, lipid. One of those. Amino acid derivatives, proteins, and the lipids. We will have some details to talk about this. This is just a general classification. The amino acid derivatives are basically coming from tyrosine and tryptophan, most of them. And obviously these are small ones. What come from the tyrosine? Thyroid, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and dopamine. It's also called catecholamines. So these are the tyrosine derivatives. Epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine. Tryptophan, like melatonin, come from tryptophan, which is produced by the pineal gland. Peptide hormones. This is obviously a chain of amino acid that are held together by a peptide bond. And usually the peptide bonds come in a pro-hormone. What's pro means? Huh? Pro means before. It's not a hormone yet. It's a pro-hormone. It will become a hormone. So this is like a precursor of a hormone. It's a hormone that's not active yet. So when you remove a piece of it, it will become active. Pro-hormone. Like before it become actually a hormone. There are two types of groups of peptide hormones. It can be glycoprotein. What's glycoprotein? Protein and sugar. Okay. And it is more than 200 amino acids with carbohydrate, obviously. And the example is TSH, FSH, and LH. These three are glycoproteins. The second group is secretions from the hypothalamus, heart, thymus, digestive tract, pancreas. Yeah, this is not the most important thing to know. Eicosanoids and steroid hormones. These are the lipid derivatives. Eicosanoid will come from arachidonic acid. Steroid will come from cholesterol. These are the lipid derivatives. Let me just say it clearly. The most important thing is the function. Okay? The most important thing is what is this hormone doing? Okay? Function and maybe some dysfunction. But function is the most important thing. So eicosanoids is one thing. Leukotriene, these are eicosanoid derivatives. These are chemicals that are released by leukocytes. What are the leukocytes? What's leuko? White? So white cells? White cells produce leukotriene. The first part, leuko. So these are the trienes that are produced by leukocytes. It's just a chemical messenger. He's secreted to do something. Prostaglandin is another lipid derivative. And prostaglandin itself has some local activities, but it can change to thromboxane and prostacyclin. We will talk about those a little bit more. But generally speaking, the prostaglandin is a messenger or a chemical compound that's used to like mediate the pain or something. Okay, so it's a local mediator anyway. Steroid hormones. So I'm expecting you to know just the nature. Is it amino acid? Is it a peptide? Is it fat? Okay, this is just a little part. But the main thing about this chapter is function. But I can ask you like reproductive organs, secrete androgen, estrogen, and progestin. So if I ask you what's the nature of androgen, okay, it's a steroid, which is lipid derivative. Okay. Catecholamines, peptide. Okay. Calcitriol that secretes from the kidney is also steroid. corticosteroids. So these are all examples of steroid hormones that come from cholesterol. So the point here is they come from cholesterol. Cholesterol is like a precursor. You can change it to androgen, you can make it estrogen. So you play with the structure of the cholesterol. You add hydrogen here, you add carbon there. So you can change it to androgen, estrogen, and progestin. What's the difference between androgen, estrogen, and progestin? Which one is for male and which one is for female?
Estrogen is for female.
Androgen is?
Female.
Estrogen?
Female.
Progestin? Females also. So both of them are for females. So reproductive, adrenal, and kidney, this is all steroid that come from cholesterol. So when we hear that you're trying to cut on cholesterol because cholesterol is bad, it will hurt your cardiovascular system and it can give you heart on all of that. No, you don't restrict, you don't cut cholesterol. You decrease the cholesterol because the cholesterol is actually you're going to use it on those, and it's actually part of all cell membranes. So do we use the cholesterol? Yes. You need to get everything within the normal limit, not to eliminate anything. Everything is useful. Steroid hormones, they stay longer in the circulation, more the peptide hormones. At the end, the liver will take it and secrete it in the bile or urine. So what's the fate of the steroid hormones? First of all, it stays longer time than the peptide. The liver will take it, change it into a soluble form. So are the steroid hormones soluble? Steroid hormones, it's not soluble, it's fat. It's a fat soluble. Soluble means if you put it in water and mix it, it will dissolve. Does it? It's not. It's not soluble. So if it is not soluble, you cannot get rid of it through the urine. So what to do? The liver will change the nature and make it soluble. So you can secrete it in the bile or in the urine. Hormones usually circulate freely or bound to transport protein. What's the difference? So these are the hormones. The cells make hormones, go to the extracellular fluid, go to the blood, move and go to the different organs. Okay? If it is free, it can be eliminated really quick. So the lifespan or the lifetime would be shorter. If it is attached to a protein transport in the blood, it can stay longer. So usually this is the case with everything. Anything that's carried by a carrier, it have a longer lifetime. So free hormones can stay for like an hour and it will be broken, while those attached to protein, it will stay longer. Steroids in general will stay longer. Hormones secreted, it's a chemical compound, chemical molecule, secreted from the cells, goes to the extracellular fluid, travel through the blood, go to different tissues, right? How is it going to react? It's obviously hormones are carrying an order. I'm coming to you, I'm a messenger, I'm coming to tell you what to do. These are the hormones. What's the interaction between these hormones and the cells? Okay? It depends on the nature. It depends on the nature. These hormones are looking for, each one of these hormones is looking for receptor. Like when you go to any house, okay, you ring the bell, right? You find the bell first, and then you ring, right? So people inside will know that you're there. You can knock on the door. So you find the door first, and then you're going to react. If you belong to that house, you will just come in. You have your keys, and you get in, and you can talk to them inside. So depending on the nature of the hormones, if this hormone is lipid soluble, it can, like they have the key, they can actually cross the membrane and go inside the cytoplasm, go to the nucleus, and the receptors are in the nucleus. If this hormone is protein in nature, on the other hand, it cannot cross. Do you remember the cell membrane? That was 233. Remember the cell membrane? What can cross the cell membrane? It's anything that's tiny or lipid soluble. Do you remember that? What's the membrane? It's 2 layers of phospho what?
Phospholipid.
phospholipid. So it's lipid, it's fat. So only lipids can go through it, okay? Or other things can go through pores, but generally speaking, anything that's lipid soluble can cross the membrane and go directly to the nucleus. So if that's the case, the receptors is in the nucleus. Proteins, on the other hand, will go, let's say this is the cell, okay? This is the cell, and this is the nucleus. If I am steroid or lipids, I will go cross the membrane and go to the nucleus. If I'm a protein, I can't do that. I'll go to the membrane, I'll stop here. Can't get in. Why? Because it's lipid and protein, I cannot cross. So how can I tell the cell what to do? From outside. So I will knock on the door, okay, ring the bell to tell them what to do. So receptors can be outside on the membrane for the protein hormones, or it can be inside in the nucleus for the lipid hormones. Okay? So, and this is the actual use for the chemical nature, and this is why I was telling you, you need to know the chemical nature, because if you know the chemical nature, you will know the attitude or how is it going to interact with the cells. And actually, the easy way to remember this, if it is lipid soluble or not, if you just remember the three that we talked about, the reproductive, the adrenal, the three that we talked about, if you know them, these are the lipid soluble. You don't have to know the non-lipid soluble because it's everything else. You don't even have to remember. So if you remember those three, anything that's not one of these three is not lipid soluble. What was the third one? Kidney, calcitriol. So if it is not reproductive, if it is not from the adrenal gland, if it is not calcitriol coming from the kidney, you name it. Anything else is not lipid soluble. Okay, if I tell you anything else that's not one of those three, just say it's not lipid soluble. And if it's not lipid soluble, is it going to act on a membrane receptor or a nucleus receptor? If it's not lipid soluble, is it going to act on the membrane outside or the nucleus? Outside, on the membrane from outside. Okay? So eicosanoids, what's the eicosanoids? Is it lipid or protein? Lipid. So is it going to cross the membrane and go to the nucleus,
Yes.
or react outside? Nucleus. So this is the important part. Are you talking about intracellular nucleus, intracellular receptors, which is in the nucleus, or extracellular on the membrane from outside? Okay. How to know that? Just tell me the chemical nature and I will tell you. Is it one of the three? If yes, then it's lipid soluble. It can cross the membrane, so it's intracellular. If it is anything else, then it's not lipid soluble. It will act on the membrane. This is the mechanism of action. Okay, if you're talking about these hormones that like protein or peptide or amino acids or something that will work on the membrane from outside, it will go to the membrane like this. I'm a protein, I'm going to the cell, and I cannot enter, right? Protein, I'm not lipid soluble. So I'll go to the receptor, okay? Somebody will respond to me, okay? This somebody, can I go to the nucleus if I'm a protein? Can I go to the nucleus? No, I have to stay outside and just go to the receptors and say, I have a message for you. I'm a messenger, I'm a hormone. I have a message for you, I cannot get in. Can somebody respond to me? Somebody will respond, take your signal, bring it in. This somebody is called the second messenger, okay? Or the intracellular intermediary. Inside the cell, he will respond to you. He will take your signal or your message to the inside. So the first messenger is the receptor. The second messenger is something else in between you as a hormone and the nucleus inside. And it will respond to you. The second messenger is usually cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP, or calcium, and this is something that you need to know. Second messenger can be cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP, and calcium. These three are the second messengers. Okay, you have to remember this. Amplification, you attach to a receptor and the signal will be amplified. That's fine. Cascade, yes. Downregulation. You can control the number of receptors that respond depending on the amount or the number of hormones available. So this is downregulation. Upregulation is if there is not much hormone, you increase the number of the receptors. So if you have a lot of hormones coming to you, you downgrade because you don't want to do overaction. If you have a little bit, you increase the receptors available. This is upregulation, downregulation. G protein is in between those, the first and second messenger. And this is important to it. So we know what's the first messenger? It's the hormone going to the receptor. The hormone going to the receptor, first messenger. Second messenger is somebody inside the cell, will take the message from you. The second messenger, cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP, or calcium. In between those messages, like the message, or the in between those is G protein. And being in between the first and second messenger, it can actually change the concentration of the second messenger. Okay, the name of the enzyme here is important, adenyl cyclase. This is an enzyme that make the second messenger. Okay? Adenyl cyclase.
So it made a second messenger?
It make the second messenger, and it's called, remember this, look at this, adenyl cyclase, cyclase, cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP, cyclase. So it's the one that make the cycle, like cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP. Calcium is another messenger that G protein can activate or can trigger. So steroid hormone, on the other hand, will cross the membrane and go to the receptors nucleus most of the time. Sometimes it is receptors in the cytoplasm, but it's inside the cell anyway. These are the steroid hormones. And since these are steroid hormones, they can actually enter and they can go to the nucleus, so their action is on the DNA. What are the contents of the nucleus? DNA and some RNA, right? Isn't this is chromosomes, DNA? Yeah, so they go to the nucleus and they work on the DNA, they change the transcription to tell the DNA what to do. Okay, so we stopped here at 55, thyroid hormone, and we will finish the rest next time.